they call up Jacksonville, see if Nick Foles trades back for him? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I didn't want to go there. I'm just joking. They might be willing to listen, though. Jacksonville, the way
Jacksonville might be willing to listen and take Alshon Jeffrey off their hands because Alshon clearly so misses Nick Foles. But go ahead.
This team's a little bit of a disaster right now. That's an understatement in itself. But I think this could be a defining moment for Carson Wentz. He's got to come out. And anytime there's smoke, there's fire, right? So these rumors, these anonymous sources, I do think they're real. Now, the question is, how much of a concern is it if you're Carson Wentz? But, you know, a lot of times, and CC can attest to this, you see team meetings and you kind of like, uh-oh, this is a team that's in a bad spot. But I do feel like Carson Wentz needs to step up in a room in front of his teammates and give some sort of an inspirational, hey, this is my team. If there are any issues, come talk to me. I'm going to start playing better. You need to start playing better. We're not out of our division. You know, you need to give some sort of step up, you know, come to Jesus type moment for this team and say, all right, I'm the leader. We need to take control of our season or else it's going to get away from us.
Yeah, I think sometimes, Danny, it becomes hard because we want the quarterback to also be the ultimate leader. We want him to be the take-charge guy, not only on the field but in the locker room. And all guys aren't made that way. I remember when we got Jeff George, and I was talking to Jeff George in the locker room. He said, man, I've never been around a team that had the type of leadership in the offensive huddle. I mean, we had me, Moss, Robert Smith. We had a good tight end. We had Randall McDaniel as an all-pro Hall of Fame left guard. Like, we had a team that the leadership, we didn't need him to do. We just need him to throw the ball. He said he had never, from high school, the responsibility was put on him in college. And in the pros, he didn't ever want to be that guy. I believe Carson is the franchise quarterback, but I believe as you're in pro football, your personality has to develop. I do believe they miss Chris Long. They miss those veterans because Carson Wentz needs someone else to tell Alshon Jeffrey, shut up, do your job, this guy is the franchise quarterback. A lot of times, Danny, it's more effective when someone else does that for you compared to the quarterback getting in an exchange with guys. And to me, that's one thing that I used to see. Randall Cunningham, he wasn't a dynamic leader like that. So I used to have to get myself in there to let guys know. If that was someone else who had a problem with the quarterback, I used to have to say things so the quarterback wouldn't be put in that situation that he can concentrate on his job. And I believe Carson Wentz is in a very similar situation in a very tricky locker room there in Philadelphia, Nick.
Danny, and I want to stay on Carson Wentz, but I want to stay on the field in this regard because I want to ask you a question about what having a deep threat on the field does for a quarterback and what he's seeing, even if he's not going to the deep threat specifically. And the reason I bring it up before you answer is there is a huge discrepancy in Carson Wentz's numbers in plays with either Torrey Smith, remember him from the Super Bowl season, or Deshaun Jackson on the field. Touchdown-interception ratio is 22-3. His quarterback rating's north of 100, as opposed to all the plays of his career, you can see right there, without either one of those guys. And the reason we're keying on those two guys is those are the only two real deep threats, speedsters he's had. Deshaun's one of the best ever. Torrey Smith, that's what he made his career doing, was being a vertical threat. Even if Torrey Smith wasn't their #1 target, and even if Deshaun wasn't going to be, even though he was great in that first game, their #1 target, what does that open up for you as the quarterback as far as what you're seeing, as far as your ability to hit the tight end or hit other people?
It's a massive difference. I'll give you a similar analogy. I'll try to give it. Steph Curry, look what he does to opposing defenses in basketball. It spreads the floor, so everything opens up. There's more passing lanes. Same thing in the NFL with a passing game. If you have a threat on the outside where the safety has to be worried about, hey, I got to stay deep enough, so I have to be able to cover that much ground. Same thing for the defensive backs. They've got to back off. Even in press coverage, they're going to be a little bit quicker to bail out of there. It just makes everything else around the passing game complementary. Those passing lanes start to open up just a little bit more in a game where those windows are already small. If you don't have that threat, then they're going to be incredibly small, which makes it that much tougher on Carson Wentz, which is the reason I think he's really struggling with his accuracy this season.
And Danny makes great points as far as the defense is concerned, because from a alignment standpoint, Nick, you make a great point as far as having a speed receiver. The speed receiver is typically to the tight end side, to the strong side of the formation. So if the ball's on the left hash, we go a right formation. Zach Ertz is being hurt because Deshaun is not there. You can't play bump and run on him. You have to play cover 2, which not only opens up run support, but Zach Ertz. It opens up the field on that strong side for him. So Danny will tell you this in reading defenses. The Steph Curry analogy is great. More spacing on the court, and the guys who aren't great offensive players for the Warriors, it makes them more effective because they can get to their spot on the court because of the spacing, guys.
Well, Eagles have a relatively tough test in a 5-1 Buffalo team. Where do you think they stand? How important do they need this game?
I was telling Nick before, I like a lot of underdogs. This is one of them. I think this is the type of defining moment for this season. I don't think it's a must-win game because the Cowboys are a mess in their own right, after finally getting back on track after losing 3 in a row. But I do think this is one of those defining moments for this team. Doug Peterson's leadership has been challenged. Carson Wentz has been there. But I think they can pull it together. If they've played really well. They've just been really bad starts. They've been playing behind from double digits. So that's just not a recipe for success. They've got to come out and start this game stronger and stay in the game from the beginning. And then I like their chances.
Yeah, watching the Minnesota team last night, I'm going to go back to them last year. Minnesota, after great expectations, the Minneapolis Miracle, losing NFC Championship game, a lot of people had Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins coming back for the 2018 season. They fell off, didn't make the playoff. This Eagles team, they could be just like that Vikings team, really talented, a lot of experience, but if they don't get it together in week number 8, it is a real possibility that the postseason, they'll be at home like my Vikings were last year, even though they were a talented football team.
Last year, the NFC East champ, Dallas Cowboys, were 3-5 after 8 games. And then they ended up obviously going on to win the division. The Eagles, if they lose this week, be 3-5. The problem is they don't have instant injection like Amari Cooper coming through that door. You can say, well, Deshaun's coming back. Man, the word out of Philadelphia is even when he does come back, he's not going to be 100% at any point the rest of the season. I don't think they have a 7 out of 8 streak in them the way the Cowboys did yesterday, the way the Cowboys did last season. And as far as the team they're facing, I know nobody cares about the Bills except for people in Buffalo and me because I bet them to make the playoffs. But this is a really interesting test for the Bills. The Bills' wins have come against Jets, Giants, Bengals, Titans, Dolphins. This is an opportunity for the Bills to say we are not just a product of our environment, so to speak. We are the team, the only team all year to give New England a game, and we're someone to really take seriously because of what we can do defensively and in the running game. I think it's a very tough test.
They're hard to judge because they took the Patriots down to the wire, but they also that came down to the wire with the Miami Dolphins
Absolutely
as well,
right.
So you really don't know. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.